3,000 years. Pharaohs, pyramids, incredible power. That is the story of ancient Egypt. It's this civilization that rose, fell, and, left behind wonders that still blow our minds today. And we're gonna try and cover all 3,000 years in just the next few minutes. So with a story this huge, where do you even begin?
Well, to really get Egypt, you have to start right here, with this question. Because the entire story, everything, from the very first farmer to the very last pharaoh, it's all built around one single, life-giving character, the Nile River.
So what was Egypt's big secret? It was the flood. Simple as that. Every single year, like clockwork, the Nile would overflow. And when those waters finally pulled back, they left behind this thick layer of incredibly rich, fertile black soil. This stuff made farming, well, almost effortless compared to anywhere else back then. And that predictability, that rhythm, it shaped their whole worldview. It gave them this deep belief in cosmic order, something they called ma'at, a belief that balance would always win out over chaos.
In fact, the Egyptians built their entire calendar around this cycle. First, you had the inundation, right? That's when the fields were flooded. Then came the sowing season to plant the crops. And finally, the harvest. But here's the really cool part, the big takeaway. This super efficient system created a massive food surplus. And what does that mean? It means not everyone had to be a farmer all the time. And that freedom, that extra food, and that extra labor, well, that became the engine that powered Egypt's most incredible projects. Yeah, I'm talking about building pyramids.
Okay, so before it became this massive, unified empire, Egypt was actually two separate kingdoms. Down south, along the river valley, you had what was called Upper Egypt. Its symbol was that tall white crown. And then up north, where the Nile fans out into that big, sprawling delta, that was Lower Egypt, and they had the red crown. So you've got two lands, two different rulers. But then, right around 3150 BC, everything changed. A ruler, we know him as Narmer, or maybe Menes, he conquered the north, brought the two lands together, and literally merged the two crowns into one single powerful symbol. And with that, he became the very first pharaoh, the divine king of a new, unified Egypt. And this incredible unification, it kicks off the first great era of Egyptian history, the Old Kingdom. This is the period that gave us the symbols of Egypt we all know and love. It was a time when kings didn't just rule for one lifetime. Oh no, they engineered their own eternity in stone.
So take a look at this timeline. The really important thing here isn't just the dates, it's the pattern. See those long stretches of incredible strength and unity? That's your Old Kingdom, and later, the Middle Kingdom. But in between, you have these gaps. Historians call them intermediate periods, and these were not good times. We're talking famine, civil war, the central government just falling apart. It's this constant cycle of collapse and then rebirth that really defines so much of Egyptian history.
So before those massive pyramids started touching the sky, the pharaohs were buried in these things called mastabas. They were pretty simple, really, just rectangular, flat-roofed tombs. But they were the foundation, the starting point for everything that came next.
And this simple design got a major upgrade thanks to a brilliant architect named Imhotep, who was working for Pharaoh Djoser. He had this revolutionary idea. He thought, hey, what if we just stack smaller and smaller mastabas on top of each other? And the result? The step pyramid at Saqqara. It was literally a staircase to the heavens. And from there, it was just one final incredible leap of engineering to get to that smooth-sided true pyramid that we all recognize today.
And this whole evolution reaches its peak right here on the Giza Plateau. Now, you gotta understand, these weren't just tombs. No way. They were more like resurrection machines. They were built to house the pharaoh's very essence for all of eternity, so he could climb up and join the gods. And of course, the Great Pyramid of Khufu, it's the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world that's still standing. All right, so after another one of those intermediate periods, another time of decline, Egypt rises again, and this time it's stronger than ever before. Welcome to the New Kingdom, the Age of Empire. This is Egypt at its absolute peak. We're talking projecting power all across the Middle East, just dripping with gold, and at the same time, going through some of its most dramatic drama at home. So what was the big change? Invaders. A group called the Hyksos came in and introduced some game-changing military tech to Egypt, things like the horse-drawn chariot and the powerful composite bow. Now, after the Egyptians finally managed to kick them out, they did something really smart. They took that new tech for themselves, created a professional army, and completely shifted their mindset from just defending their borders to, well, expanding them. And in this new age of powerful warrior pharaohs, there's one guy who stands out because he tried to change, well, everything. His name was Akhenaten, and he started a revolution that shook Egyptian society right to its core.
You see, Akhenaten declared that there was only one true god, the Aten, which was the physical disk of the sun. He basically shut down the worship of all the old traditional gods, especially the super-powerful god Amun. And by doing that, he was directly challenging the immense wealth and power of Amun's priests. He even moved the entire capital to a brand new city he built just for his god. It was a completely radical, chaotic time.
So after Akhenaten died, his young son, Tutankhamun, takes the throne. And the first thing he does is reverse everything his dad did. He brings back the old gods, gives the priests their power back, and honestly, he would have just been a tiny footnote in history except for one incredible thing. In 1922, the archaeologist Howard Carter found his tomb, and it was completely, totally intact. The only royal tomb ever found that hadn't been robbed.
And then there was Ramesses the Great. Seriously, if you close your eyes and picture a pharaoh, you're probably picturing this guy. He was the ultimate builder king, putting up massive temples like Abu Simbel. He was a fierce warrior who led his armies against the powerful Hittite Empire. And when that huge battle ended in a tie, he switched gears and became a diplomat, signing what is the world's first known peace treaty. The man did it all.
But you know, even the mightiest empires can't last forever. After Ramesses, Egypt began a long, slow decline. Its power fractured, its wealth started to dry up, and it became a target, a prize for other rising empires.
This kicked off a period of almost 1,000 years where Egypt was ruled by foreigners. One after another, different powers took control. You had Libyans, then Nubians from the south, the massive Persian Empire, and then the Greeks, led by Alexander the Great. But here's the crazy part. A lot of these conquerors didn't try to erase Egyptian culture. Just the opposite. They adopted it. They called themselves pharaohs, and they worshipped Egyptian gods.
The final end came in 31 BC. The last pharaoh, the legendary Cleopatra, and her Roman ally, Mark Antony, were defeated by another Roman, Octavian, the man who would soon become Emperor Augustus. And just like that, 3,000 years of pharaonic Egypt was over. The land of the Nile became just another province of the Roman Empire.
So, after all that, after 3,000 years, what was the legacy? What did they leave behind? Well, beyond all the incredible monuments, they left behind a totally unique culture, a really complex society, and a language that for centuries nobody could understand.
Religion was absolutely everything to them. The Egyptians believed so deeply in an afterlife, and that's why they perfected mummification. The whole point was to preserve the physical body, so the soul could return to it. Their tombs weren't just graves, they were eternal homes, packed with everything a person would need for the next life. And in the New Kingdom, to try and stop grave robbers, they started burying their pharaohs in a secret, remote desert spot, the Valley of the Kings. And their society was structured like a really rigid pyramid. Right at the tippy top, you had the pharaoh. And he wasn't just a king, he was seen as a living god on earth, the embodiment of the god Horus. Right below him were the powerful priests who ran the temples and the super important scribes who basically ran the entire country. Then you had your soldiers, merchants, and skilled workers. And below them was the biggest group by far, the farmers. And then at the very bottom of it all were slaves. For centuries, nobody could read their beautiful writing, the hieroglyphs. It was a complete mystery. The huge breakthrough came when they found the Rosetta Stone, because it had the same chunk of text written in 3 different scripts. And this let a brilliant linguist, Jean-François Champollion, finally crack the code. He figured out that the symbols weren't just simple pictures. Some of them represented a whole idea, but others represented sounds, just like the letters in our alphabet. It was an incredible discovery that basically gave a voice back to an entire civilization. So, from the simple gift of a river, a civilization rose up that truly shaped our world. They really did build for eternity, and so much of what they made is still with us. But it leaves you with one final question, doesn't it? With everything we found so far, what other secrets? What other tombs? What other incredible stories are still out there, just waiting to be discovered beneath the sands?